This video will be used to give you a brief introduction on how to use verbs that have a subject and an object. So you may be familiar with some, like for I love you, atawi shamash, atawi shamash. The mash is I to you. I love you. Or maybe you've heard of, if you want to say I thank you, kwashlanu shamash, kwashlanu shamash. I thank you, or thank you. I love you, I thank you. So these are I to you, I to you. But if it's, let's switch this around and make it something more generic, like call. And let's say, will you call me? So to make a sentence, we question, we use mish. For will you call me? You have your num for you. You is call. Mishnam payu yuta. Will you call me? Mishnam payu yuta. So here's mosh, I to you, and here's you to me is numpa. You have the num and you have the accented pa onto your verb, and that's how you say you to me. Mishnam payu yuta. Will you call me? Mishnam payu yuta. And if it's can I call you, then it would be mishmash. Mishmash you yuta. Or will I call you? Can I call you? So here's I to you, mash, just like in atawi shamash, I love you, kwashlanu shamash, I thank you. Here's can I call you? Mishmash you yuta. Mishmash you yuta. Remember, you to me is mishnam payu yuta. And now, if we bring in a different person, this is I to you, here's you to me. So you can go I to you to me. But if you're talking about somebody else, and you could say, maybe, can I call him? Or can you call him? Can you? Can you call him? Mishnam ayu yuta. Will you call him? Or will you call her? Mishnam ayu yuta. The num is the you. This is accented a. For this accented pa, that's for you to me. The accented a is in front of the verb if it's you or I as the subject and he, she, or it as the object. So will you call him, or will you call her? Mishnam ayu yuta. It would look the same if it's num or nosh. Will I call him? Mishnash ayu yuta. So this accented a is added on in front of the verb for a him, her object with the I or you subject. Now if you wanted to say, let's stick with, will you call her? Will you call her? Mishnam ayu yuta. Accented a. And let's say that you say the person. Mishnam ayu yuta. Malinan. Mishnam ayu yuta. Malinan. Will you call Mary? Mary, you could say Mali, because we don't have a R, so you could say anybody's name right here. but you add the non at the end. Mishnam ayuyuta malinan. Will you call Mary Mali? Will you call her? Or you could say Mishnam ayuyuta chanan. Will you call John? Mishnam ayuyuta chanan. Or you could fill in anybody's name right here, and then you add the object marker. So that's what this is saying, is that you have a I or a U, and that you will have a he, she, or it, a him or a her as an object. And then when that happens, you have to put this non on there. So this is, will you call her? Will you call Mary? Mishnam ayuyuta malinan. Will you call Mary? The ta is the will part, the future tense. Mish is the question. Num is the subject. Will you? And this is saying I have a I or you subject, and I also have a him or her object, and that her is Mali, Mary. And this is saying she's the object. So Mishnam ayuyuta malinan. So if you want to say, will you call somebody, you insert their name here, you add the object marker, and this is the way to say, will you call Mary? Now if this was reverse, and will Mary call you? Now for will Mary call you, you don't have non after Mali because she's no longer the object. Now she's the subject. Num is the object now. Whether it's subject or object, it still shows up as num. So for will Mary call you, Mishnam Mali, you have to add a num. Mishnam Malinum. This num is saying it's a third person going to an I or a he, or going to an I, a me, or a you. Will Mary call you? Mishnam Malinum. Mishnam Malinum iyuyuta. Will Mary call you? So if he or she is the subject, you add the num, whoever that person is. And if there was no person there, it would just be Mishnam iyuyuta. Will she call you? But if you add the person's name in, now you have to put in num if you have I or you as a subject. As an object. So this will always be in second position, regardless of whether it's a subject or the object. Mishnam, mishnam. What tells you whether it's a subject or not is the rest of the sentence. So E is saying he or she, and then Malinum is saying this is the he or she, is Mali, and the num is who. It's called will. Will is the ta is the future tense, so will Mary call you. Will Mary call you? Mishnam Malinum iyuyuta. Will Mary call you? Or you could change it to will Mary call me, just by adding the nash instead of the num. So Mishnash Malinum iyuyuta. Will, future tense, will Mary call me? Or will Mary call you? Depending, that's where this person, for you or me, then it goes here. And if you have the person who is the E, then they have to be marked with num. So that's a way. So now we have I to you, Atawi shamash, I love you, Kwashlanu shamash, I thank you. Now we have a you to me. This is I to you, now you to me. Mishnam payu yuta. Will you call me? And then mishmash yu yuta. Will I call you? And then now we have a will you call her? Mishnam ayu yuta. If you say the her or him, you have to add non. Mishnam ayu yuta malinan. Now if you switch that around and say, will Mary call me? Mishnash mali num iyuyuta. So the num is connected to the mali because she's the subject, and this is saying he or she is the subject, and then nash and num is the object. That's when you use the num. If you have a verb that's a subject and an object verb, it has a subject and an object, and when that subject is he, she, or it, you have the e here, and if the object is a you or me, then you have the num. So here's, of course, there's a lot more things to say, but this is enough to get you started and practice and use some of these sentences.